I don't hesitate to give advice to anyone, family or stranger, because I may never have that opportunity again that's present at that moment. So I just seize the moment and take my best shot.
Take advantage of any opportunity you get to do something, even if it's out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, go for your dream. Just do it. Just do it.
Hello and welcome to our very latest episode of This Day and Age. We are live in this episode. We took the podcast out on the street. We are coming to you from the Fulton Street Farmers Market in beautiful Grand Rapids, Michigan. We happen to be here on a Friday, which is one of the busiest days of the week, so you're going to hear noises and sounds that sound like we're right in the middle of the city, in the middle of a farmer's market. Lots of people shopping for all kinds of goods. And I am here to tell you we've got a great episode. We are going to share some priceless wisdom and life experience with some older adults who happen to be right at the table with me. We are going to be dispensing advice throughout this episode, and I'm very excited about that. We hopefully have a treasure trove of wisdom, stories, and life lessons from some of our most cherished community members, our seniors. And it's easy to overlook the fact that they're here amongst us. And do me a favor, if you haven't had a conversation with one of the older adults in your life, maybe you should start doing that a little bit more. I am very honored to have with us on this episode of This Day and Age 3 incredible residents from Holland Home. Okay, I've really sold them, so we better make sure they're incredible. I am very excited to welcome to our program. We have Marilyn. This is to my left as we introduce our guests. We have Marilyn and Renard, who happen to be husband and wife. And at the end of the table, we have Jareen, all Holland Home residents, all here to impart their wisdom on any passerby who may have a question about life or anything in life. First of all, we're going to go through the panel and have you each talk a little bit about yourself, introduce our guests. And to my immediate left, again, this is Marilyn, who is married to Renard. So first of all, Marilyn, a little bit about you and your background, and then we'll jump to Renard.
Okay, I'm Marilyn, as Phil said, and actually lived in northern Oakland County before we moved to Grand Rapids last August to be part of the Holland Home community. We have 2 grown children, 5 grandchildren, and are enjoying getting acquainted with the city and the surrounding area.
So you've been here less than a year?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Welcome to West Michigan.
Thank you.
You didn't decide you wanted to pack up yet and go back home?
Oh, no. We certainly miss our friends and our community, but we are thoroughly enjoying exploring Grand Rapids.
You two look like great people. Renard, you've been here less than a year. I mean, so far, so good. You like it?
I do like it. There are lots of new things to do and see in the Grand Rapids area, including farmers markets, Myers Gardens, zoos, new people to meet, new churches to experience.
Yeah. And how long have you two been married?
We've been married 52 years. We met at Michigan State University. I grew up in northern... Go blue. Go blue. And I also have a degree from Michigan, so
okay, good.
I have both schools covered.
You are yourself a house divided. I love that.
That's right.
That's great. That's great. And at the end of the table, we would like to say good morning to Jareen, also one of our expert advice givers on our panel this morning. Good morning, Jareen.
Good morning. Good morning.
A little bit about yourself.
I have been here in the general area all of my life, and at Holland Home about a year and a half. Absolutely love being there. One of the reasons that I moved there was so that life would be more simple for me. I aspire to be an artist, and I have been working diligently, taking workshops and so on, so that I can learn to be a better watercolor or acrylic artist.
And how long have you been there, living there?
About a year and a half.
About a year and a half.
About a year and a half.
So all three of you are kind of in newer transitions, true transitions later in life.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to start with that. And Marilyn and Renard, talk a little bit about that, about making that. I mean, first of all, you move to another side of the state. You move to one of the Holland Home communities. I mean, how did you prepare for that? Renard, you're right in front of the microphone. Talk about that. Did you guys talk a lot about that?
Sure, we did have a lot of conversation about it. It's difficult to move from the community where you've raised your children, same church, same schools, same friends for 45 years. We lived in a beautiful home on a lake. But I thought it was time to make a move into a full continuum of care retirement community where we would have less responsibility for maintaining physical plant, things of that nature.
Mm-hmm. Marilyn, did you need any convincing, or were you convincing Renard?
No, Renard was convincing me. I loved our home and community and have lots of special memories there. But he's the very practical person in our family, and this made a lot of sense for us to consider this. And as he said, my mom was part of the Holland Home community in independent living for 5 years at the Bretton Ridge, and then moved over to Raybrook in assisted living, and then skilled nursing for the last 4 years of her life. So we know many people in the community, and have just really appreciated the compassionate care of my mom. So it was the logical choice for us at this time.
Sure. And Jareen, how about you? You said it's about a year and a half that you've been at Holland Home. How's that transition been for you?
It's been good. As Renard said, it's an adjustment to make this transition, leaving what's been familiar or what you've loved and enjoyed. And at first, I thought, ooh, there's a lot of people to get to know here. But now I feel very comfortable. I have neighbors that come and go. We see one another. It's been great. It's been easy.
You know, and we never divulge ages on this podcast. You all look incredibly young, far too young to be living in a senior community. I'm just saying. But, you know, it's interesting. I have my mother-in-law lives in a senior community, and it's really it's invigorated her life at 85. Mm. And, I mean, there's so many potentials. And, yes, it's a huge transition, but a lot of potential. By the way, we're at a farmers market. Does anybody here have a family with any kind of a farm background in terms of where you grew up? Oh, you do?
I do.
Okay.
All of my grandparents were potato farmers in northern Michigan. So I spent a lot of time on the farm. It's a lot of hard work, and I really appreciate all the effort that these folks have put in that are here at the farmers market today to give us the produce and food that's here.
I love it. I love it. Jareen, are you?
I actually grew up on a small farm in the area. My dad was a dairy farmer, and I loved growing up on the farm. My mom had a garden that grew everything that we ate. She canned or froze it all. I loved being in the barn far better than doing anything in the kitchen. But yeah, farm life was amazing.
I love it. Yeah. And this is a great place to be if you love the farm, you love fresh. Literally farm to table. It's to these vendors' tables, and it's behind all of our guests is one of the busiest streets in Grand Rapids, Michigan. So you're going to be hearing that ambient noise. But we're here under the advice tent for this day and age, and we're offering free advice. You've got 3 veteran life livers here, and yes, I mean, how wonderful. We have our first advice tent seeker.
How do we connect the generations?
That's a great question. How do we connect?
That are, living with internet and...
Yeah, staying connected is so important, and I think as our grandchildren have gotten older, finding their interests and trying to connect on that level, going to their sporting events or their favorite food. One of the things, starting out when they were young, we loved reading to them.
Yes.
And as they've gotten older, I ask them for advice on what they're reading. And even if it's something that I don't necessarily relate to, I'll get it from the get a book from the library so that we have something that we can talk about. And also following their favorite sports teams.
Oh, you do that?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
In a limited extent, yes. I'm at least familiar with some of the Michigan football players. And basketball.
I also think it's good to introduce them. My grandchildren are older, so they're young adults, but I think it's good to introduce them to things that you enjoy, that maybe they're like, well, I've never, I've taken mine to an opera. Tonight we're going to a play. And sometimes it's sort of like, okay, I'll indulge you to go to this or do this, but surprisingly, it's like, oh, that was fun. Yeah, so kind of cross the street in both ways, both directions.
All of the things that both of the ladies mentioned involved spending time with those grandchildren.
Yeah.
Right.
And so doing anything that they're interested in doing or that they will do that you're interested in doing is very helpful, whether it's hiking, walking, going to the farmers market, playing with dogs and cats, talking sports, throwing a ball, playing a game, whatever it is, but you have to spend time with them. If they're not local, then you'll have to spend time on the phone, on the internet. You'll have to mail them little things, toys, presents, but maintaining that relationship is just critical. That's the most important thing you can invest in.
I think that's the best advice of all, is give your time and attention.
That same advice, maintaining the relationship and the communication is essential in a marriage, with friends, in community. You have to make that investment of time and energy in those people, and you'll have to find the activities that they're interested in. But we've spent a great deal of time outdoors with our children and grandchildren. We just got back from Alaska. I was fishing and living in a tent for 3 or 4 days with a 6-year-old grandson, and it was a wonderful opportunity. Nobody had any cell phones. Limit it, do other things, offer alternatives to that world, and then since they are involved in that world, then you'll participate in it. We email to our grandchildren, we send them photos of things that we're doing, and that's all helpful. You're maintaining that relationship.
We have another person who's going to walk up to the advice microphone here at the Fulton Street Market. So stick around for that marriage question. I need you to get right up to that microphone, and good morning.
Good morning.
You have a question for these 3 full of wisdom people?
I do. I am curious how maybe your perspectives in life have shifted being in this stage of life compared to maybe being in your 20s.
What a great question.
Wow.
I would say they're constantly shifting. The perspectives you have when you're young, you have goals, ideals, dreams, and sometimes those get waylaid, and so you go down a different path. And then eventually they shift again, and so I'd say explore what comes before you, think about what really matters to you, and those you love and care about, and just move forward. Yeah. Yes.
Bernard?
I agree. Jareen is right on point. Your perspective changes daily, moment to moment, depending on what your position in life is. Am I a student? Am I dating? Am I early married? Now I have children, then I have grandchildren, and you just react to the moment. But treasure each day and where you're at each day in your life, and just fill it with activities. Be a goal setter. Decide what your goals are, short term and long term, but don't hesitate to modify those.
Yeah. And keep learning, keep learning new things always.
Good advice.
Yeah.
Yeah, they both ditto to what they both said.
Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
All right, so we're going to jump into marriage now. Thank you for your question. You guys have been married 52 years. What's the secret to staying together for half a century?
Oh, I think being flexible, encouraging and appreciating each other, and spending some time together along the way with things that you enjoy doing. And we've had opportunities to introduce each other to expanded interests, and I learned a little bit about fishing and pickleball as we've gone along.
Oh. Do you put the worm on the hook?
I have learned to put the worm on the hook and take the fish off.
Okay, I'm thoroughly impressed. I am. Well done, Renard.
At our one of our 50th anniversary parties with friends a couple of years ago, I had 3 short items of advice for all the gentlemen in the group in order to stay happily married a long time. And one was to say, I'm sorry, to learn to say I'm sorry, to learn to say, how may I help you, and to say often, I love you. And that applies not only in marriage, but to any relationship. If you can be guided by those 3 suggestions, you really increase your odds of having a long, happy relationship.
I like that. Very, very good. Do you have any relationship advice for us, Jareen?
Yes, I do. I would say that love, kindness, and respect for your partner, for anyone in your life, respect is key. If you respect one another, you respect those around you. Those things add to happiness.
Well said. Well said.
In fact, Phil, there's an excellent book out called Love and Respect by Eggerick that is
Emerson Eggerick, yeah.
Is filled with good advice.
Yeah, I like that. Well, we are the cheapest booth at the farmers market. Absolutely the cheapest booth at the farmers market, offering free advice under the advice tent of this day and age, and we're live for this episode of our podcast, and we have another advice tent seeker, a brave seeker for these 3 full of wisdom souls. Good morning. What's your name?
My name's Hannah.
Hi, Hannah. What's your question?
Well, I wanted to ask, so with COVID, my social skills got a lot rustier, and my ability to make friends has certainly been impacted, I think, and I was wondering if you had any advice for me and for my daughter who sometimes struggle in making friends.
I like that. Who wants to jump in on that?
That's a great question. And when I saw you walk up, I was thinking that my daughter was about your age when about once a week, usually she took the bus home from school, but about once a week I would pick her up and we would go to our favorite sandwich place for just kind of a late lunch, early dinner. And that was something we used to be able to just talk, the 2 of us. And that was just a very helpful and fun, memorable time for us.
Thanks, Hannah.
Thank you.
We have a busy advice tent this morning. Of course, we're the best deal at the Fulton Street Farmers Market. If you have a question, well, we've got some catalysts to help get those questions going. And we have another person who has walked to the microphone here at the advice tent with a young man. And, well, we are here. Good morning. What's your name?
Good morning. I'm Chelsea, and this is Hayes and Ben, and our daughter Naomi, and
A beautiful family.
we'd love to ask the experts about, if you are parents, any advice you wish you could tell your younger parents. Anything in general or specific?
Oh my, that's a great question. Just spend as much time with them as you can when they're this age and thoroughly enjoy every minute because it goes so quickly. I know that's hard because you're thinking all I want is an uninterrupted night of sleep. That may not happen for about 18 years for you, but just enjoy these sweet, precious times.
And that advice comes from Marilyn, who spent 25 years as a nursery school teacher. So she's got the expertise for it. I would encourage you to spend as much time as you can reading with the children because then they'll learn what's in that material as well as bonding and building that close relationship with you. Set your family goals early. Decide what you'd like to do in the next 15 years as a family as far as travel or things you want to see, activities you'd like to try, because as Marilyn said, that time goes by very quickly.
I would certainly agree with what they have both said. I think reading with children is very important. Libraries are important. The having a goal, a family plan of what you might want to do, and knowing that those goals can be flexible and change depending on what's happening in your life.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
We're live on the scene at the Fulton Street Farmers Market here for This Day and Age. I'm your host, Phil Tower. And the voices you are hearing are Marilyn and Renard, married couple here and Holland Home residents, and also Jareen, part of our advice table of 3 for This Day and Age. We are the best and cheapest booth here at the Fulton Street. Okay, we're not the best, but we are the cheapest booth here at the Fulton Street Farmers Market, and we have this wonderful panel for free expert advice. I've got a question for you guys. Is it harder to give advice to a family member versus a stranger? And Renard, you looked like you wanted to answer that one real quick, and then we'll answer these questions.
Sure, no problem. I don't hesitate to give advice to anyone, family or stranger, because I may never have that opportunity again that's present at that moment. So I just seize the moment and take my best shot.
Okay. Jareen?
Advice, I'd rather think of it as information. Try to be open to what the person is looking for. But as to whether the person is family or a stranger, either one is fine.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think it's harder with family members because you see them on a more regular basis, and in my case anyway, I just don't want to say the wrong thing or have somebody that I'm close to that I love get upset with me because we might not see eye to eye.
That is really great. We are here at Fulton Street Farmers Market in beautiful downtown Grand Rapids, Michigan. On this episode of This Day and Age, we've taken the advice tent on the road, and we have three veterans in living life. We have Marilyn and Renard, who are husband and wife, and we also have Jareen. And the common point they all have is they are all residents at Holland Home. We are continuing our Under the Advice Tent episode for This Day and Age, and I'm your host, Phil Tower. I'm so glad you are here. We are, once again, we're going to introduce our panel full of wisdom. We have Marilyn and Renard, husband and wife couple, 52 years, but who's counting? And Jareen on the end. All three of them are Holland Home residents. All three of them, they haven't even been tapped in terms of the infinite wisdom right here. And as great as the Fulton Street Farmers Market is, we have the best bargain here at the market today, which is free wisdom. And we've had some great questions so far. We also have thought starters here. I'm going to ask you guys about aging and specifically embracing aging in just a moment. Do we have an advice seeker? Good morning, and hold that right up to your mouth. What's your name?
I'm Rachel.
Hi, Rachel, and what's your question for this panel of wisdom?
My question is, what is one thing in life that you wish you started doing sooner?
I can answer that quickly. About 8 years ago, I decided that I wanted to be an artist. I wish I had started many, many years ago. When I was much, much younger, I thought about art occasionally, mostly as like, well, I might like to study it. I like to look at it. But I thought, I don't think I'm an artist. And finally, I decided, go for your dream. Just do it. Just do it. Right? Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Renard?
Something in life that I wish I had started sooner. Nothing comes to mind because I guess I was an early learner. So early on in my career, I started taking more vacation time each year than I took the prior year. I started early.
How about you, Marilyn?
Perhaps consistent exercise.
Thank you. Thanks for stopping.
Thank you so much. We have another advice seeker. Go ahead. Good morning. What's your name?
Hi, my name is Allie. And today the question I'm wondering is, what is one piece of advice you wish you would have known when you were about to be turning 30?
A piece of advice that you wish you had known when you were turning 30, how quickly the time passes between 30 and 70, so that you can just squeeze every activity in every day as quickly as possible. Just embrace each moment.
Okay. I don't think I can add to that.
And to take advantage of any opportunity you get to do something, even if it's out of your comfort zone.
Yes,
That's
for
great
sure.
advice.
Yeah.
All great advice. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks for stopping.
Happy birthday.
Jareen, you want to jump in on that? Any advice you'd tell your 30-year-old self?
My 30-year-old self, the thing about following your dream, even if you think you can't, try it.
Yeah.
Just try it.
So this is a question for the panel. I get to ask a few while we're waiting for our next advice seeker. What's the secret to being at this stage of life that's pretty wonderful that you didn't think you were going to be aware of maybe 15, 20 years ago? I think there are a lot of things, but if you could say, boy, here's what's great about living life where I am right now. And Renard, you look like you were in deep thought on that one. Do you want to take that real quick?
Sure, Phil, no problem. At this stage of life, in retirement, you really get to set your own schedule. Your days are still full, they're busy, but they're items that you have picked yourself rather than a boss or a family commitment that requires you to do a particular thing. And that's a wonderful joy to have those things available. You still have to choose carefully because your energy is limited, your time is limited, your resources are limited, and you want to make the best impact that you can on your family and your friends and the community. So choose your activities carefully, but you have complete flexibility, and I certainly appreciate that.
Okay, so the question for the panel was, what are some of the secret surprise or joys about being at this stage in life? Do you want to jump on that one, Jareen?
Yeah, I would say one of the things that was kind of surprising to me is that you don't have to care so much about the outcome. You don't have to care about, is it perfect? Are you perfect? Are you enough? You can choose carefully, as Renard said, because your time, your resources are limited. They were always limited, but you're more aware of that now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Marilyn?
I'm thinking that for me, I knew I'd enjoy grandkids, but I really, really enjoy grandkids. And to have the flexibility at this stage of life to be able to enjoy doing activities and things with them is wonderful.
I like that. You know, we had kind of a discovery as we took a quick break, and that was the discovery, and Renard did not disclose this, that he is a published author, and this is pretty exciting. This is a book called Guideposts for Living, Keys to Living a Successful, Meaningful Life. How long ago did you decide to write this book?
Oh, I think I decided to write the book perhaps a decade ago, and this particular book was published in 2020, and so it's been out now for a couple of years.
Okay. And what was the motivation? You said, I've got a book in me, and I want to put this down on
The motivation for this book was to give advice, particularly to my grandchildren, along with stories from activities or events that have occurred in my life or my parents' or grandparents' lives that otherwise might be lost if I didn't write them down.
What was your thought about this, Marilyn, when Renard said, I'm going to write a book?
Oh, I was happy to see it down because he's a very gifted author and has a lot of stories to tell.
You know, I'm going to jump right on this, and you all three can answer this question. Is it more important to have a successful life or a meaningful life? And that's kind of a loaded question, but a successful life doesn't always mean a meaningful life, right, Renard?
The definitions of those two terms are really critical, successful and meaningful, and you could define those in a number of different ways. But for me, successful and meaningful both relate to, as you age, looking back and saying, have I impacted other people to come closer to, frankly, Jesus in their faith? And closer in their relationships with other people, particularly family, those that we're responsible for, and friends and others that we run into along the walk of life.
Successful and meaningful, Jareen, how about you? Would you feel you've hit the mark on those?
Hit the mark. I would say it's more like you continue to hit the mark or
I
look
like
for
that.
the mark. Success isn't something it's like, oh, I've arrived, I'm there. But to think how I've impacted others or how my life impacts others, how I've been impacted, relationships are about success, mostly relationships, caring.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Marilyn, you've been married for 52 years. That has to be successful and certainly meaningful. You've got wonderful grandkids and adult kids. What are your thoughts on that?
That really sums it up quite well. It's a day-to-day journey, though.
What do you mean by that?
Well, sometimes we look at a big picture, and it may seem unattainable or overwhelming. But if you just look at each day, activities, opportunities that you have to interact with people, to support people, to encourage people, to me, those are things that make life meaningful and that successful.
I like that. We are speaking with Renard and Marilyn. That was Marilyn you just heard speaking. And also Jareen, 3 Holland Home experts, as we have taken the advice tent live on the road once again for this day and age, and we are waiting for our next advice seeker on this beautiful sunny Friday morning. I'll set the scene for you. We're right in downtown Grand Rapids, a little bit to the east of downtown Grand Rapids at the Fulton Street Farmers Market. We actually have another advice taker, and then we'll move down to Jareen for her bucket list. Good morning. What's your name?
Good morning. I'm Dan.
Hi, Dan. What's your question for this panel full of wise people?
All right. Well, my question was, what's been your biggest surprise about how the world has changed, growing up through now?
Oh, great question. Great question.
Who wants to start with that?
I don't know. I have to think about it.
The question is, what was the biggest surprise in how the world has changed? And I think the development of the internet and cell phones. I mean, when I was a kid, comic book Dick Tracy had the ability to talk into his phone, into his wristwatch, and communicate with others. That's real life stuff now. So that instant communication around the globe between family and friends, and that has both positive and negative implications. But that's been just a huge change. Creates wonderful opportunities to get information and to share with family, even if we don't live close. So I appreciate that.
How about you, Marilyn?
I think just the speed of life has increased, compared to when we were growing up. It at times seemed much more simple then. At this point, I see more stress, more pressure, more need to achieve. And I think that sometimes maybe takes away from enjoyment of of living.
Jareen, do you have something you've observed?
The shock of the internet, I would say, or the instant communication has probably been the biggest thing.
Thanks, Dan.
Thanks for asking.
Yeah. All right, we have some other advice seekers. I'm going to have Renard hand the microphone off to this gentleman. Good morning. Put that right up next to your mouth and ask your question.
All right, I have 2 girls, Maria and Nettie, and they ask, what makes for a lasting friendship?
All right, Marilyn, you want to take that first?
A lasting friendship means playing together, encouraging each other, and with sisters, you've got a built-in friendship right there, don't you? Because you get to spend lots of time together. And sometimes will be happy times. Most of the times, hopefully, will be happy times. But then some of the challenges are when you do have a disagreement. How are we going to figure this out?
Yeah. That's a great thing about sisters. Jareen, you have any advice for a lasting friendship?
Yes, to listen and pay attention to each other when you're happy and when you're sad. Both.
And my advice would be just enjoy being together. Help each other and tell each other, I love you.
Great advice. Thank you.
These are 2 young girls, each with, well, somebody's got a wad of cash. And that, yeah, a little bit of market money. So that'll be interesting. Speaking of getting along and, having understanding and things like that. Jareen, we left off with you in terms of things, and boy, I want to go back to what you said, Renard, about it's not so much an experience as it is something that's meaningful, which is really speaking into your kids, sharing good, important things with them. quality time. We read a lot, you guys, about being present with the people we're around, and actually paying attention and not necessarily being distracted by a TV screen or a phone screen, but just paying attention to them. Jareen, what kinds of things are you hoping to experience that you haven't experienced yet?
There was a time in my life when I would have answered that question by saying, well, there are places I want to go, things I want to see. Today, the thing that's probably most on my bucket list is to try to make the best art that I can make at any time, because I feel what I have is a gift that's been given to me, and that I really must use it to express as well as I can what I feel. My art is intuitive and to me very spiritual.
You remember, of course you remember, but I'm going to ask you, what's the first thing you painted watercolor?
Oh, the first thing I painted was probably more like just a blob, because I didn't know what to do with anything.
That's the best honest answer of the day.
Right.
It's the best honest answer of the day.
Right.
Good morning.
Yeah, we have people waiting for answers to their questions here at the Advice Tent. What's your first name and what's your question?
Pat,
Hi, Pat. What's your question?
how do you start dealing with aches and pains that you're noticing more and more and more? And that includes marks on your face. You weren't there before. You're new. This bump is new. Why is it saggy here? Any advice?
Wow. That's a loaded question. Marilyn's dying to take that one.
Yes, thank you for asking. Yeah, that, and it definitely comes with aging. And one physical therapist, her standard line, which is probably typical of those in the profession, is motion is lotion. And just to keep moving in spite of pain. When it gets to a certain point, seek out causes, stretching, exercise. There are a lot of opportunities. We've just recently moved to Grand Rapids, and thankfully our insurance covers the silver sneakers classes, and so there are availability of that. I'm at a point where I do an annual scan with a dermatologist, so yes, that's part of aging, and part of it is just accepting it. And yeah, the looser skin, some of that kind of thing just comes along, and that's just what it is. It is what it is, and you just live life fully in spite of it.
And I'm going to say something, and Jareen, I want you to add to that. We're at a point now, and if you look at magazine ads and things you see on the internet, it's become more acceptable, finally, to use older people in advertisements. The wrinkles, the gray hair are being welcomed for the first time. Somebody who grew up in the 80s and 90s, we had that ideal, that fake ideal of what a perfect person looked like. And it seems like we're celebrating older people more, especially visually, as we should. And Jareen, I know you wanted to add to that as well.
I totally agree with that, and I have noticed that the media, culturally, there is more acceptance of differences, that we don't have to look like a certain thin image or whatever it is, and to follow in what Marilyn said is, yes, you have aches and pains or physical changes, but don't just sit there with them and say, oh, poor me. Keep moving. Find an exercise or something that you really enjoy doing, that so that you're not like, oh, I've got to go do this, because it really does help. And sometimes even just a 10-minute walk gives you some meditative time. And the acceptance, like, hey, I've lived life, and this is good.
Thank you so
Good
much.
question. Thanks, Pat. We appreciate it.
Mm.
We have another advice seeker here at our This Day and Age podcast advice tent. Good morning. What's your name?
My name is Sierra, and I was wondering if you guys have any advice or experience with picking up and moving by yourself to go to like school or anything like that. I'm planning to move to Salt Lake City in a couple months by myself, and
Wow.
I don't know what to think, but I think I'm excited.
Are you going to school there?
Yeah.
Okay. Nursing school. Great.
What?
Which school?
It's Salt Lake Community.
Good for you. Congratulations.
enjoy exploring the area. We've just recently moved to Grand Rapids about a year ago, and obviously it's so much easier, I think, now to be able to research what the community, what your school has to offer, take advantage of looking at the bulletin boards, with information, and do your research ahead of time. And but stay in touch with family and friends here too. But yeah, you'll find we've been through Salt Lake City and the area in Utah visiting friends, and it's beautiful.
Renard?
That's good advice. Just congratulations to you. Embrace the moment. It passes very quickly. Be open, be sociable, reach out to new people, and you'll meet a new circle of friends. Just remember, many of the young people you're going to be running into at college out there are also newly transplanted, and they're looking for friends as well.
Yeah.
And just enjoy that time together. Talk about their background and your background. Build new friendships, and just see all those new things that are out there. Hopefully, you'll get some good skiing in out there.
Shireen, what would you tell Sierra?
I don't know that I could add much to that other than I think you're very brave, and congratulations to you. Embrace it. You'll meet lots of new people and have a new circle. Yeah.
That's a great career choice too, by the way. Plenty of job opportunities. Good for you.
Job security.
Good for you.
Indeed. Thank you so much. Great question.
Great day. Congratulations.
And we're not doing video for this podcast, but I will tell you this much. We've had a cross section of ages, people of all ages, including the young man with two of his young daughters and a little bit of everything. You wrote this book, Renard, Guideposts for Living, primarily for your kids and grandkids?
Yes.
Okay.
I wanted to get that message to them, but I'm also finding a number of other people, including particularly a lot of adult friends, are enjoying reading it and finding some, I think, valuable guidance in it for what to do with the rest of their lives.
I don't know if you all have children, but I know you, Marilyn, and Renard have children. I want to ask this question because I think a lot of adults, as parents, struggle with this when you've got one or two kids that are polar opposites and totally different, and maybe even have siblings that are completely opposite. How do you navigate that as a parent, or maybe even as a sibling with siblings who are completely different? It makes life a little more challenging. Shireen, how about you? Are you finding you've got people who are vastly different in your family, your close inner family?
I think so. Well, first of all, I think as a very young person, I anticipated that the people close in my family, whether children or siblings or their spouses or whatever, would be pretty much like me. We're all going to have the same value system or whatever. Well, that's certainly not true.
Yeah.
And so, but just to try to look at the other person and who they are, where they are, what they come from. Again, that being open, I think, and viewing not the other as anything other than other. It's just different, not wrong, not right.
Yeah.
Other.
So, Renard and Marilyn, remind our listeners how many kids you have.
We have two children, a son and a daughter, both in their 40s, both married, both with children.
Both different?
Both different, yes. Everyone is unique. It's good to remember that every person is the apple of God's eye, and just love them as best you can with whatever personality they may have, whether it's friends, children, siblings.
Marilyn?
Yeah, the same. I think just, appreciating the things that they have in common, but then also appreciating their unique personalities and bents. Obviously, they're very different, and, everyone has different needs and different styles of doing life.
Every now and then you run into somebody who's got an estranged family member, someone who maybe it was a parent or grandparent decided, well, this person has done wrong, so they're ostracized or they're estranged. And I've always been struck by how sad that is, how unusual it is. Do you have any wisdom for people listening to us who maybe have a difficult family situation like that?
And that is heartbreaking, and we walk alongside some friends and family members where that has been the case. And what I've seen is just continuing to be in prayer, continuing on your part to do what you can for communications, particularly like if it's letter writing on occasion, even if you don't know what the result is going to be, but just keeping some form of communication going.
Mm-hmm. Bernard?
That's real solid advice, and to kind of layer on top of that, ask for forgiveness if they think you've done anything wrong, even if you think you haven't. Yeah, keeping up the communication is critical. I spent my entire career as an estate planning attorney, and I saw many circumstances where there was estrangement in the family, and seeking to improve and continue communication was the best advice that I could see in those circumstances.
Good. We'll pick up with you, Doreen, in just a moment. We have another advice seeker at our advice tent. What is your first name?
My name is Veronica.
Hey, Veronica.
Hi.
What's your question for these three wise people?
You know, I think I struggle a lot with maybe making decisions. There's just too many, you know, so I feel like maybe there's a paralysis of decision making, and I was wondering if you have any advice for that.
Wow. Is there a specific one you're struggling with right now?
I'm currently a homeowner and thinking about selling, and then I'm also thinking about living in different places, or maybe being a little more nomadic or being a little more stationary. There's just a lot going on. So I don't know if there's any advice for just having a decision that feels right and sticking to it.
Okay, good.
I would think that maybe you've got all these options, so just put them all out there on, maybe even on a piece of paper. Just like, here you go, this, what about this? Whether it's moving, whatever it is, and then pick out 3 or 4 and focus on those, and then try to narrow it down gradually.
I'm a real visual person, so whenever I'm facing any significant decision, I'll typically grab a piece of paper and put a line down the middle. Put the question at the top and put pro and con, or if I do it or don't do it, what will the results be? If I write things down, it's a lot easier for me then to figure out what my options are, and then the preference will tend to rise to the top as I study those things. Also, it helps me organize because it's not all rumbling around inside my brain. It's listed on a piece of paper. It gives me an opportunity to prioritize.
Those are all good suggestions. I don't think I've got anything to add.
I would add to, you know, as you're going through all that, think about, trust your gut. What feels right to you, not what you're hearing out here from other people, or, you know, they say, or whatever. What feels good to you?
Yeah, view all those decisions as experiments, and if one doesn't work, try the next one. Be forgiving for yourself. Yeah. And just view them as wonderful opportunities. Just enjoy it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for stopping in. Thanks for your question.
Thank you.
Wow, what an episode. And that's only part 1 of some good old-fashioned advice from the Holland Home experts live at Fulton Street Farmers Market. And we hope you will come back for part 2. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did, and hopefully you gained some of that good old-fashioned advice from our great panelists, our special guests from Holland Home. That was Marilyn and Renard, married for over 50 years, and Jareen as well, all Holland Home residents and really special people. I am so excited to have you come back for part 2, because we've got a lot of other great questions and some great answers from our advice panelists. And don't forget to check out thisdayandage.org, where you can catch all of our other episodes, and be sure to subscribe to This Day and Age so you don't miss any of our upcoming episodes, including part 2 of our good old-fashioned advice tent. And until next time, for Holland Home and This Day and Age, I'm Phil Tower. Thank you for listening.